In this video we're going to look at how to create a name puzzle for manufacture with the CNC machine as well as the universal laser cutter. Here's an example on the screen of a puzzle that I've made in preparation for this video. Let's just take a quick look at it before we build it. So you can see in the browser here the name of the file, name puzzle, and the origin has been turned off by default. But actually, if I turn it on, you'll see that this component here, which is the board, has been extruded negatively from the XY plane. So I haven't extruded it up from the plane, which I'd normally do, but for this design I decided to negatively extrude the board down, and you'll see why in this video. So also one thing to note is I've built this model with one sketch only. Okay, you saw in a previous video the nameplate, two sketches were used, and as a rule of thumb for CAD design you want to minimize the number of sketches that you use, so I'll go over that in this video. So I'm turning my sketches off, and if I turn off the board, we can examine the lettering, and you can see over here the symbol that's looks like a 3D cube. That's the symbol to let you know that this is a component, and a component is essentially a collection of bodies, and bodies are things that we create when we extrude a 2D sketch into a 3D shape. And so in this way I'm describing to you the anatomy of a CAD file from the browser. So ideally we want to create components before we manufacture our designs, because they just keep things nice and organized and tidy. Anyway, let's dive into how to create this name puzzle for the students at Sri Kalika School, our current project. So I've got a blank document here, and it's really important for this design that we follow the numbers used exactly. So I'm going over here to create a sketch, and I'm choosing the XY plane. Make sure you can see the sketch, and my sketch is visible, and I'm going to just use a rectangle here, and I'm going to bring it up by 100, and I'm going to go across, in this particular case, by 600. Now, one thing to note, depending on how many letters you have in the student you are assigned for the project, the length of your board is going to change. And the reason I'm using 600 right now is this student here, Mona Lisa, she happens to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 letters in her name. And so some of our other friends in the school, they may have only 3 letters in their name, and so it stands to reason that you wouldn't want a 600mm long board if it only has 3 letters on it. So what I've decided to do in this video is just use Mona Lisa's name for the purposes of the video, but in your case you'll need to probably adjust your numbers depending on the letters that the name has. So while we're here in the sketch, I'm going to add some fillets, and the fillets for this project are going to be 5. Actually, we'll make that 10, 10. With the fillet tool is still activated, I can go all the way around the edges of the sketch and round out all of those to the same dimension, so 10mm radius for the fillet. I'm not going to click finish. Alright, and so now I'm going to create the lettering for this on the sketch right now, and so we'll go ahead and press the text tool, and I'm going to you can see here that each of these squares is a unit of measurement. For this particular puzzle, I'm just going to come in and click one corner and go across to the other side, and I'll make some adjustments in terms of my spacing around the outside of the text very soon. Over here we can see in the text palette, it's waiting for me to type text. Now we have tested successfully this font here, Arial Rounded MT Bold. It remembers this because I recently completed the example model. So you're going to have to scroll down and find Arial Rounded MT Bold, and I'll put Mona Lisa's name in here, Mona Lisa. Beautiful name. And what we want to pay attention to here, students, is the height and the character spacing. Now Fusion remembers the last measurements that I used, and these are the measurements that everyone must use. This is important because we need to standardize the heights and spacings of the lettering, because we're going to be cutting with the laser lots and lots of material, and it all needs to be the same size. You'll also note the alignment. I have the alignment of the text here set to the center on the horizontal plane, and set to the center here on the vertical plane. I recommend you do that too. But just again to emphasize, we're not bolding this font because it's already bolded. The height we're using is 50, and the character spacing we are using is 30. These numbers are important. Make sure you pay attention to them. So having set the height and character spacing, I'll click, and the font itself, I'll click OK. And now you can see that actually I have quite a bit of extra space on the board. We don't want to use any more wood than we have to. And so my trick is to simply, you can see the dotted line around the text. I'm going to move the dotted line until it touches the edge, the left edge of the sketch over here. And I'm going to adjust the width or the length of this board so that this part of the board touches this part of the text, and this way I have somewhat consistent spacing around the text. So because I've set a dimension on it as 600, I can't just click and drag it. Let's see what happens if I delete the length measurement and I click on one side of the sketch, and now you see I can drag it. Right, so I'm going to do that, drag it out to these dotted lines. Again, recall that it depends on how many letters your client has in their name. You basically want to adjust your board length to suit. Okay, so 100 will be fixed in the height, and this length is going to change. And now that I have modified it to what I need, I will press D for dimension, and I'll just accept the oops, I just clicked the wrong line there. Press escape, my bad. I'll press D for dimension, and I'll click once on the left side, click again on make sure I'm selecting that edge there, and now you can see the new length is 560.88. I'll just go ahead and make it 560. Okay, so let's see what we have so far. We have one sketch, we have a rectangle with filleted edges, we have a text tool that's used, and now the next step is we're going to press we want to expand this text, I should say. So I'll go ahead and click finish sketch, and then what I want to do is highlight the text by moving my mouse over it, right clicking on the mouse, and I want to edit this text only. And you can see now when I right click on the text box is highlighted, but also I have these options in the menu, and this is what I want. I don't want to edit the letters of the name. What I want to do is explode the text. So this is an alternative method to emboss, and it's an important technique that you'll see in a moment why we're exploding the text. So I'm going to click explode, and you'll see that it changes now. All the letters have been outlined. And the reason I'm doing this, let's go ahead and look at the example file. If we come in a bit closer, you'll notice that we have a clearance in the wooden board, a little space here between where the letter will be placed and the board itself. If we don't create this clearance, this extra space, the letters will be difficult to put into the board, and therefore it won't be an easy product to interact with. So how do we do that? I'm going to come in a bit closer and show you. We're going to use the offset tool. So I press O for offset, and I'm going to carefully select the letter M, and what we need to pay attention to here is the direction of the offset. So you'll see that the red indicates that it's being offset inside of the letter. We don't want that. We don't want to make the letter smaller. So what we need to do in the offset menu, in my case, it may be different for you, but we want to make sure that we change the direction of the offset. The offset should be to the outside, not to the inside. And you'll see the default is -1 millimeter, and we're going to accept that. 1 is more than enough. It's quite generous actually, but it's good to be more generous than less. And so we're going to be using an offset of 1 millimeter for all of the letters. Now you need to do this individually, so I'm going to need to do this 8 more times. So press OK, and I'm going to introduce you to a new shortcut here. If you right click your mouse and you drag vertically straight up like this, it remembers the last command that you used, and that was for me offset. So I'm going to do the same thing on the outside of the letter. I'm going to flip it to the outside, keep it at 1, press OK. I'm going to just pan across and repeat. And now make sure it's to the outside, click OK. I'll speed up now. Okay, so I've offset all the individual letters. How I was able to do that is I exploded the text, transforming it from text to a shape effectively. I've added a 1 millimeter offset to the outside for each of them, and I can go ahead and click Finish Sketch. So now we can see here, I like to right click on my sketch in the browser and show the dimensions. I just like to see by habit the kind of dimensions that I'm working with, and that lets me see that everything has been offset by 1, the lettering, and I have my board dimension 100 and 560 and a radius of 10. I'm now ready to go ahead and extrude, create a 3D object from the sketch. So I'll press E for extrude, and I like to extrude in this isometric view, and the first thing I'm going to extrude are all the letters. Let's go ahead over here and see again the example file. You'll see if I hide the board, we are creating these letters. Okay, and these are going to be made from acrylic, and they're going to be 10 millimeters in thickness. Okay, so we'll go over here, and I'm going to make sure the extrude is active, and I'm going to go and click on the inside of the lettering. Alright, because we know that the offset distance is what we're pressing down into the board. So I'm going to go ahead, and I can, using my pan tool, I might switch back to this top view sideways, zoom out a bit, and just make sure you're at a zoom distance where you can definitely see you're selecting the inside of the lettering. Okay, yep, that looks good. And I'm going to make this operation new component by default, and or new body, sorry, I'll keep that as new body, and make sure that's why, sorry, my bad, choose new component. I can choose new component. I haven't specified a distance, and so I'll just go back to this isometric view, and as I mentioned, this is important, pay attention to this part. We're using a distance of 10. Okay, so there's our lettering extruded up at 10 millimeters, new component, click OK. You'll see in the browser now I have a component, and the first thing I'm going to do is label it letters. Okay, get into the habit of labeling your sketches and your bodies and your components. It really helps you as you're designing something. And so I have all the lettering there. I'm going to turn the letters off now, go back to this top view, and I'm going to create the board. So let's go and look at the example again. Here's the board. You'll notice it's a thick board with some depressions here for the letters. Notice that O, there's no island in the middle of O, and there's no island in the middle of A, and that's deliberate just to help the letters fit in nicely. So over here what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag a selection across the entire sketch, go back to my home view, press E for extrude, and I'm going to keep this as a body, but my distance is, I'm going to go in the negative direction now, so I'm going to choose negative, and our wood that we're using to create these boards is 15 millimeters thick. So make sure you're choosing a distance of 15 millimeters. Okay, I'm keeping that as a body for now, and you'll see why soon. Click OK. And I have the, notice that the sketch is now visible at the top here, and it makes it easy for me to go ahead and create this feature. And that's why I've negatively extruded. Just makes it a little bit easier. We saw in previous video that you can click through bodies, but this way I'm just going down in the negative value. So now I'm going to go ahead and press E for extrude, but this time the extrusion operation is going to be a cut. I want to cut down into this body to create the parking space for the letters, and this time I'm going to carefully select the offset of 1 plus the letter. And I'll go ahead, making sure you see I'm zoomed in, and the island for O, I'm going to take care of that, and I'll do the same thing here. And I'm just using my panning mouse button 3 here to easily stay zoomed in, so I'm definitely touching the offset area. And getting each letter just carefully. You want to do this with a mouse. It's really easy with a mouse and more accurate. Now I'll go back to my home view, take a look. Yep. And this operation, I need to make sure it's a cut. It changed. Did you see that? And the distance I'm going to cut down is -3. Right, I'll click OK, and now you'll see that if I turn off my sketches, we have a board created. Now we want to transform this body now into its own component. So if I expand my bodies, you'll see I have body 1, and I can just right click body 1 and create a component from that body. Right, and I'll immediately go ahead and rename this component, double clicking it. This is the board, and then you can now turn the lettering back on. And actually another thing you can do before you add all your appearances is you can go up here to the inspection menu and cycle component colors. Because we now have 2 components, Fusion will automatically add a different color to each component, and this can really help you just kind of see the differences between things and how they fit. So everything looks good here. Of course, what you would do, as you've already learned, you would go ahead and change the appearance. As you can see now over here in the example one, if I turn off my component colors and put my lettering back on, all I did was add a pine appearance to the board, and I added some plastic colors to the letters. So that is how to create the name puzzle.